Maybe we could go around the room and just people can introduce themselves so other people know who they are. If everybody's okay with that, that'll give us fill up 3 minutes. So I'll start with myself. I'm Vinny Piccirilli. I'm the Chair of Public Works, and I'm the Secretary of the Economic Development and Planning Committee. Kenny?
My name is Kenny Woodland. I am the Chair of the Committee on Economic Development and Planning. Anthony?
Anthony Donato. I am the Vice Chair.
Okay, let me go around because I'll keep track of who's who. So Andy?
Andy Campagna. I'm the Chair of the Bike Ped Committee in Watertown.
Okay. Laura?
Laura Weiner, Senior Transportation Department of Community Development and Planning.
Okay, Steve?
Steve Magoon, Director of Community Development and Planning and Assistant Town Manager.
Okay, Natalie?
Natalie Rafel. I've worked with McMahon Associates, and I'm part of the consultant team that worked on the bike ped plan.
Okay, great. Christy?
I'm Christy Apicella, also with McMahon Associates. I served as the project manager working with Steve and Laura and other staff on the plan, as well as the Bike and Ped Committee.
Okay, Eric?
Good evening, everybody. I'm Eric Weiss. I'm also part of the consultant team. I'm a transportation planner. My company is called Cogent.
Okay, great. Lisa?
Hi, I'm Lisa Feltner. I'm Vice Chair on Town Council Economic Development and Planning Committee.
Okay, Mike Pompili?
Mike Pompili. I'm a Senior Transportation Engineer with McMahon Associates. Also worked on the plan.
Okay, Jeannie Trubeck? You have to unmute yourself.
I'm Jean Trubeck. I'm on the Watertown Energy Efficiency and Environment Committee. I'm on the Transportation Working Group of that committee, and I'm a biker and a pedestrian.
Okay, great. Jill Allen Dixon.
Hello, everyone. I'm joining the meeting as a Watertown resident. I also work in the day, also for my home currently, but in Watertown at Sasaki as a planner with a focus on resilience and community engagement. So
Okay,
a couple of different hats relevant here, but also walker, bicyclist too.
Great. Deborah?
I'm Deborah. I'm a veteran of the Bicycle and Pedestrian Committee from its earlier days. I'm so happy to see in this plan so many of the things that we have been advocating for a long time. I'm also on the Watertown Faces Climate Change, and I see the emphasis on promoting non-car transportation, getting a better balance of that as an important part of fighting climate change.
Great. Janet?
I'm Janet Jameson, and I'm on the Bicycle Pedestrian Committee, and I've been on as long as Deborah, and I think I'm about ready to get to the wheelchair stage.
Okay. Let's see. Next row is John Gannon.
Hello, everyone. I'm John Gannon. I'm a town council at large. I'm on neither committee, but I am an activist and a biker and a runner and a walker. And I'm also interested in seeing expanded opportunities for safe travel for folks with disabilities or anyone just wanting to get a breath of fresh air. Thank you.
Great. Meredith?
Meredith Fields from the Environment and Energy Efficiency Committee. And like Jean, I'm also on the Transportation Working Group, and I'm a walker.
Okay. Kathy? Kathy Perry.
Sorry about that. I am Kathy Perry with the properties at 200 Dexter Ave and 19 Coolidge Hill Road, both on the bike path.
Okay, great. Thank you. Matt Schuman.
Matt Schuman, I'm the town engineer and I work in public works.
Okay. Tony, thank you for joining. While we were waiting for you, we just were doing going around for introductions, so you can go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Tony Palumbo. I'm a counselor, at-large counselor, and I'm the secretary for the Committee on Public Works.
Okay. Kate Nguyen.
Oh, hi, good evening. I'm Kate Nguyen. I'm actually a Westwood resident and I'm on our pedestrian and bike safety committee. So I'm just really interested in your plan and what you guys are doing. And I assume that I'm allowed to listen, but anyway.
But no, you absolutely are. It's a public meeting, and we like to think ourselves as trailblazers here in Watertown. So we're honored to have you. So
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Sheila. Sheila Fay?
Yeah, sorry. I'm eating dinner, so I'm muted and videoed because you don't need to see me eating my dinner.
Okay.
Sheila Fay, I'm on the Watertown Bike and Pedestrian Committee, a biker and walker, and here.
Okay, thank you. Maria.
Hi, my name is Maria Saiz, and I'm on the Bicycle and Pedestrian Committee. And Janet and I are the formal part of the Old Timers Club on the Bike Ped Committee now. I think both of us have been on over 15 years, which is hard to believe. So, and I'm really excited about this plan.
Okay, great, thanks. Sophia.
Hi, Sophia Gallimore. I'm part of the Watertown Transportation Management Association. And I'm here to, just hear about the plan so I can help communicate out to the community the good things that you guys are doing.
Great, thank you. Let's see, we have people are moving around here. Cindy Wentz. Cindy, you can introduce yourself?
Oh, sorry, I just came in. I'm Cindy Wentz. I'm an interested Watertown resident in the pedestrian aspects, particularly of the bike ped plan.
Okay. Amy Plavnik.
Hi, this is Amy Plavnik. I'm one of the members of the Bike Ped Committee.
Okay. I see Councilor Cornelis joined us. We're just doing introductions, Angie. If you want to introduce yourself. Oh, we'll give her a chance to get settled. Maybe we can come back to that. Next on the list, Colleen Tricky.
Hi, I'm Colleen Tracy, resident of Watertown. I've attended a handful of the Bike Ped Committee meetings, and I'm a walker and runner around town.
Okay, good. Vinod.
Hi, my name is Vinod Kalikiri. I'm a transportation planner with the PHP, a sort of Watertown office at 101 Walnut Street.
Okay, great. Welcome. Andreas.
Hi, I'm Andreas Epley. I'm a resident of Watertown and a cyclist and walker. I'm also in the transportation planning field with Camber Systematics.
Okay, good. And Councilor Cornelis, Angie, if you're there, you can introduce yourself.
Thank you so much. Great to see so many folks participating this evening.
Okay, so all right. Well, that's I think I got everybody. Is there anybody I didn't get? So we got a good group. So we're going to turn it over.
Vinny, am I taking minutes?
Yeah, Tony, would you mind taking the minutes?
Okay.
And I'm going to ask Councilor Woodland to chair the meeting. And then, so Kenny, if you want to just, Tony, if you're ready, Kenny, you can take it away.
Absolutely. I'm going to turn things over to Steve to get things going.
Fair enough. Thank you, Counselor. And in the interest of time, I'm going to turn it over to McMahon Associates to give us an introduction and overview of the plan, draft plan, and we'll go from there. So with that, I'll turn it over to you, Christy.
Great, thank you. Did Laura want to say a few words about our backgrounds before we share screens?
I'm sorry, I forgot Laura was going to do that. Yes. Laura, your turn. Sorry.
That's okay.
I just wanted to give the little background how we landed in this place here today. The purpose of this meeting is to review the new bicycle and pedestrian plan, or the draft plan that has been developed over the past year. The town's comprehensive plan in 2015 recommended updating the 2002 bicycle transportation plan, but times have really changed since then, both in terms of Watertown's physical development and in the world of transportation, including introduction of the concept of a complete street that serves all users, not just drivers. With that as a backdrop, the town council asked the Department of Community Development and Planning to update the plan, working with the Bike Ped Committee and the Department of Public Works. Our vision is to improve walking and bicycling in Watertown for recreational purposes, for commuting to work and getting to school, to make it easy and enjoyable, so much so that someone might choose it over driving. Walking and biking helps to reduce congestion and air pollution and improve personal and public health. The team that worked on the plan includes DPW Engineering Division, Matt Schuman and Kevin Duffy, Community Development and Planning, Steve Magoon, the director, Gideon Schreiber and myself, and the Bike Ped Committee, which has been a driving force to get the plan right. The town has joined forces with McMahon Associates, an experienced group of planners and engineers who've worked on bicycle and pedestrian planning in Boston, Cambridge, and Waltham, among many other places. We want to hear what you think about the plan, what you like and don't like. There'll be time for questions and comments after the presentation, and also you will be able to make written comments through the town website. You can search on the town website for bicycle plan and navigate to the webpage for bicycle and pedestrian planning and look for the link to the comment form. Now I'm going to turn the meeting over to our consultants, McMahon and Associates.
Great, thank you, Laura, for that introduction. I'm gonna see if I can share my screen here. Okay, great. Does everybody see the header of Watertown Bicycle and Pedestrian Plan?
Yes.
Okay, great. As Laura said, I'm Christy Apicella with McMahon Associates. We're really, truly excited to be here today after working so long with the town on this plan to bring it to fruition and present it publicly for the first time and solicit comments and feedback on it. So thank you for having us in your committee today. As Laura mentioned, the plan is on the town's website. So the way that you can get to this story map is through the website, and you can see the link here that brings you to our what is called a story map. And the reason we did this is that it's the same information that we would provide to you if we were going to have a public in-person meeting, which was originally our intention. But with changes in the world, we're adapting with those changes, and we've put together a presentation in a story map format that can help guide our presentation today. And you can hear from members of our team for different elements of this, but this will be available on the town's website through January 4th for people to submit comments. So we're going to give you a tour tonight as an overview of the plan, but you can review the entire plan on the website, and the story map, think of it as more of like an executive summary to give you an idea of what's here. So I'll give you a bit of a tour of this and give you an overview of the plan, and then I'm going to turn it over to my colleagues to walk you through certain elements based on their area of specialization. So within the story map, you'll see that there's a number of headings, and you can click on these to jump to certain sections. I want to point out this submit comment section that will jump to the very end where you can put in a comment in your email address if you do have a comment on the plan. So you can follow those headers. You can also use the scroll bar on the right to move up and down, or use your mouse to scroll through this overall story map. So we'd encourage the council and anybody else who's on the meeting to take a look and walk through it in your own time. But generally what we want to start about is, why is it important to do this plan? Why have we created this plan working with your community? It's a planning and policy document to guide future decision making. And the town has a goal of encouraging more active transportation of walking and biking in transit, and that helps reduce congestion, improve air quality, and overall public health. So as we started to dig into what your existing data told us, what really jumped out at us is that you're doing pretty well with people who are finding alternatives to driving alone. So the census data that we were looking at within the last 3 to 5 years At that time, 1 in 4 residents was choosing an environmentally sustainable mode to get to work. So about 65 out of 100 people were driving alone to work, which is actually really good. A lot of it has to do with taking public transit and carpool. A small number are walking and biking based on that data. So what this plan helps to do is look at that bike and pedestrian infrastructure to find ways that you could potentially encourage more biking and walking trips. But you have a real opportunity with almost 20% of Watertown workers who live in Watertown. So that's a lot of internal capture of trips that could be done by biking or walking if somebody felt safe or knew it was available, or even change their way of commuting even one day per week would help overall. We also want to make sure that we're planning for everyone. The Complete Streets prioritization plan that Laura mentioned talks about planning for all ages and abilities. So when we're thinking of that, we want to think of planning for somebody who's 8 to 80 years old. So a school child to somebody who is a senior citizen and everybody in between. We also want to think about different mobility needs. We're using the word pedestrian, but that also includes anybody who's using a mobility device to assist in their travels, people who may be visually impaired, and different levels of comfort for bicycle riders, somebody that might be just for recreation, riding with children, or somebody who's more of a confident cyclist that might be more willing to use that as a commuting trend. So what we're going to go through tonight really follows the process that we've gone through over the last year or so working with the town. This overview of the mobility in Watertown, how we heard from you, what we learned, the overall vision for the plan, give you an overview of some of the detailed recommendations and action plan, and show you again how to submit the comments. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Eric Weiss, who is part of the team working with McMahon on bicycle and pedestrian planning. So Eric, I'll turn it over to you, but I'll keep scrolling through the story map for you.
Terrific. Thank you, Christy, and good evening to everybody. For a plan such as this, the foundation for a plan like this is always the public engagement, learning from people who live and work and play in Watertown, what they need, what they think is going to make living and working and playing in Watertown better. So public engagement started back in January of this year. The first event for public engagement was the first public meeting, which was held on January 27th. 62 people came out, and here's a photo. As you can see, there were boards put out, and for people who are on this call tonight who have been to meetings such as this, you'll recognize those foam core boards with sticky notes and colored dots that you put all over the place to indicate preferences and places that you would like to walk or bike, things like that. We can continue walking through this. Maybe, Christy, could you go back up and we can look at a few of these photos? Yeah, so here's examples of some of the things that were learned both through that public meeting and through the survey that was out. The survey was out for exactly a month. Over 800 people participated in the survey, and we learned quite a bit from that as well. And about 92% of the people that took the survey were actually Watertown residents. So we learned about how people were getting around. We learned about what some of the perceived challenges were for biking and walking in Watertown. Things like motorist behavior and maintenance and condition of sidewalks and streets. So lots of really great information was gathered through the survey and through that meeting on January 27th. So down here we can also see we learned a lot about, as I said, existing conditions, priority locations, places people would like to go if they felt like it was safe to do so, people identified Watertown Square, parts of Main Street and Mount Auburn Street, Pleasant Street, Arlington Street, Arsenal and Walnut Street. And let's move on to the next. Yeah, so continuing through these images. I think that might be it for the community. Yeah, so with that, I'm going to pass the microphone over to Natalie Riffel.
Thanks, Eric. Christy, if you just click the what we learned. So yeah, like Eric was saying, a public outreach was a substantial, played a substantial role in forming the plan and the recommendations, but we also had to look at some data and do some analysis to understand what the existing state of walking and biking in Watertown is today. So this map just summarizes some data that we collected on sidewalks, showing the condition from poor to good. It summarizes some crash data that we looked at for crashes involving bicyclists and pedestrians, points out key or hotspot locations for crashes for bicyclists and pedestrians, as you can see on this map. We have the data categorized by the extent of injury or damage. So you can feel free to take more time and look at this at your own pace. We have a lot in here. I'm just giving a brief overview right now. If you stay here for a minute, one of the key metrics we looked at to understand the state of existing bicycle facilities in Watertown is a metric called the bicycle level of traffic stress. And so this is a metric that measures the amount of stress a biker would likely feel on different types of roadway segments. So it ranges on a scale from 1 to 5. 1 represents the least stressful environment, which would be suitable for a small child or an inexperienced biker. And then it goes up to a level 5, which is a high stress environment. Only the most experienced bikers would be likely to use that roadway. And even then they might not feel comfortable while using it. And so the way that we get these rankings is by looking at a few different criteria, such as roadway volumes, roadway speed, whether there's bus service on the road or on-street parking, because those are things that likely impact how safe and comfortable a cyclist feels. If you scroll down to this town-wide map, we were able to come up with a level of traffic stress score for each roadway segment in the town. And so 2 main takeaways we got from doing this analysis were that there are a large number of roadways that provide a pretty comfortable level for bicyclists, level 1 or 2. And that's mainly due to the fact that they're lower volume, lower speed roadways. So you'll see these are a lot of the shorter neighborhood type roads. And then the other main finding was that a lot of the major thoroughfares in Watertown do have that higher level of stress, particularly those that provide a lot of the north-south connectivity. As you scroll through the map, we have examples of different street types and what they scored. So we have Pleasant Street, level 3, because bicyclists are in a shared lane with traffic. And due to roadway volumes around 30, 35 miles per hour. And we have Mount Auburn Street, again, a shared lane with bicycles and vehicles, but it's a multi-lane roadway and there's bus service. So that creates a higher stress environment. And so ultimately what this tool helped us do was really focus on what are the areas in need of improved bicycle facilities, where are the missing links to create a network that can be considered safe and comfortable for all users. And as Eric was saying, get people to where they want to go to be able to live, work, and play in Watertown. And so with all of that information from the public engagement process, from our existing conditions analysis, working with the Bicycle and Pedestrian Committee and the steering committee, we were able to develop a vision statement and several goals for the plan. So the vision statement is written on our story map, and you can read it when you visit the site. But basically it just gets to a lot of the overall goals and visions that we were hearing through the process, such as for better connectivity, more safety throughout town, having bicycle and pedestrian facilities contribute to the culture of town to reduce it being an auto-oriented type of driving community, and then also helping contribute to a sense of place and vibrancy with really active spaces. So we have a series of those 4 goals. For example, this goal is showing safety. And for each goal, we developed measures of effectiveness. And those are ways that can help the town measure how successful the plan is at accomplishing its goals as different projects and recommendations are implemented. And then for each goal, we also have on the left hand of this little table, we have methods for implementation. So that gets to different types of projects and policies for regional connectivity, north-south connections, missing links. And so these categories basically feed into our recommendations, which are made up of not only infrastructure projects, but policies and programs. And so we really wanted to try to have a way to create recommendations that could then be measured and help show that they're fulfilling the community goals that were created for this plan. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mike to talk more about our recommendations.
Thanks, Natalie. So as Natalie said, the action plan consists of 4 main goals: improving safety, improving connectivity, eliciting culture change in town to try to promote mode shift away from motorized vehicles, and to promote vibrancy. Together with the steering committee, we developed some specific infrastructure and policy recommendations to achieve each of these goals, which they get kind of lengthy, but we also tried to keep the plan concise. So the infrastructure recommendations are shown here on the map. That's accessible from the town's website, as Christy had pointed out earlier. And below the map, policy recommendations are tabulated with some detail. Each recommendation is also accompanied by a time frame, whether it's a short-term improvement, medium-term, or a longer-term solution, and also a cost, if it's a low cost, medium, or higher cost. I'm just going to present a few examples from each category, and I'm going to start with the infrastructure recommendations. If you could, Christy, if you can go to number 3. As an example of infrastructure recommendation to improve safety, we recommended providing a separated bicycle facility for the length of Main Street to reduce the level of bicycle level of traffic stress along Main Street, which right now ranges from a 3 to a 5. And as Natalie said before, a 5 is a really high stress environment. It's going to discourage all but the most experienced cyclists from using it. We want to make it safer to get more people to feel comfortable using it. For connectivity, if you can go back to number 1, a couple of infrastructure recommendations that we made. One would be to highlight and prioritize pedestrian connectivity from neighborhoods into commercial and recreational destinations, especially along Pleasant Street and Arsenal Street to connect residences with those new developments along those corridors, but really also townwide. And then for number 6 on the map, we recommend improving north-south bicycle connections in town, which are currently kind of lacking, such as improving facilities on Orchard Street, School Street, or Arlington Street. The next category I said was culture change, which I'll come back to because those are policy recommendations. We don't have specific infrastructure recommendations. So for vibrancy, if we go to number 19 on the map, one of our recommendations was to, there it is, to promote new access points to the Charles River from the Arsenal Street corridor via new developments, which would promote multimodal activity along the Arsenal Street commercial corridor. So now moving on to some of the policy recommendations. As I said, those are tabulated below the map and again categorized by each goal. For our goal of improving safety, for example, the first policy recommendation in the table is to use the town's existing C-Click-Fix online reporting system to report any maintenance issues for bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure to try to keep it in a state of good repair to encourage use of it and improve safety. And then the last one in the table, addressing high bicycle and pedestrian crash clusters throughout town and identifying them for application for funding through MassDOT or other available programs to rehabilitate those locations. For connectivity, we can go down to the policy recommendations. For example, the first one in the table, a short-term, low-cost recommendation for policy is to integrate maintenance of bicycle and pedestrian facilities into routine street maintenance. For culture change, for an example, we recommend working with groups in town, such as the TMA, Mass Bike, and the Bike Ped Committee to promote bicycling townwide. And then for vibrancy, come to that. For example, the first two recommendations in the table, we want to promote access points to the Charles River through the Arsenal Street development through a program of wayfinding. So just down a little bit below under policies. Great. So we want to promote wayfinding for those routes through developments along Arsenal Street as a short-term low-cost solution, and then as a slightly higher cost, having a town-wide branded wayfinding program to have signed bike routes throughout the town to facilitate that movement. And with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Laura to introduce our Q&A session. And again, this report and story maps available on the town website, and please visit and really digest what's here more than the brief overview we're giving you tonight.
I thank you very much. Would you like to just show one more time the submit comments, where and how people submit comments on the website while you're in this in the story map?
Sure. So if you are on the town's website and bicycle pedestrian planning, which is under community development, you'll see the entire plan here, the supporting appendices, the meeting flyer and Zoom link for now, that will be taken down after the meeting, presumably, and then story map and link for making a comment. So if you click on this, it will open what we've been walking through, and you can go through this on your own by clicking on the topics, scrolling over on moving the bar, or if you have a mouse that has the wheel, you can use that as well. If you are ready to submit a comment, you just click submit comment, and it will take you to the end where you can add in that comment. And the town would like to have your email address so that there could be follow-up with as needed to any comments that you're submitting, and that will help us determine what changes may need to be made to make this the final plan. So if you're at the top, you can click here, or you can scroll all the way down through this information that we've presented tonight as an overview. And you will come to the end of the story map that has the click to download the report, goes back to the website to get more information and submit your comments here.
Can you, if you submit on submit comments at the top, there will go right to that section. They're not there.
Yep. Yeah. So if you are looking at the action plan and you think, oh, I have a question about this one, I want to submit a comment, click submit comment, it takes you right there.
And we'll have those comments open till January 4th. So if you have a little time on your hands over the holidays or whenever, you want to read through it and make any comments, you have about a month to do that. I think I'll turn it over for Q&A and comments to Councilor Woodland.
Great, thank you. I think the way that makes the most sense to move forward is to first have the joint committees see if any councilors have any initial questions. Then we'll open it up to members of the public, and then come back to the joint committees for consideration. So I'll open it up now. If any members of the joint committees have questions of either staff or the consultants. Oh, and use the raise hand function if you can. I can only see a couple of people. Okay, we'll start with Councilor Donato.
Thank you, Councilor Woodland. I just wanted to also thank everybody for who contributed to this plan. It was contains a whole lot of really valuable information. And one of the things I really appreciated about it is similar to the way the DPW approaches the road reconstruction program, is that there's a set of goals that we hope to, check all of the boxes But we also know that some streets in town aren't suited to, I guess, benefit from all of the aspects we like to see when we reconstruct the road. So I liked that this plan recognized the fact that there are these goals and we'd really like to get, 100% of all of them implemented, but not every street is necessarily going to be able to support all of these features. One thing just based on during my time on the council, I think probably the trickiest goal in implementing this plan will be the culture goal, because I know when we've talked about various aspects of complete streets, or, I'm thinking specifically with regard to the plans for Mount Auburn Street, there's a whole lot of pushback from people who may not see the value in implementing a plan if they think it's only going to benefit the few quote unquote bike riders in town. I find that people a lot of times people who themselves are not bicyclists are kind of hostile to these plans. And I know when we were discussing on Auburn Street, for me it's if we make things safer for pedestrians and bicyclists, they're safer for everybody. So I was really happy to see this plan. It contains a lot of good information, and look forward to trying to implement as many of the goals as possible. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Let's see, Councilor Petrelli, Councilor Palumbo, Councilor Feltner. Anything right now? Councilor Feltner.
Thank you. And as Councilor Donato said, thanks to everybody for their good work on this plan. I just had a question. I thought Lisa Gifford is a liaison.
Sorry, Lisa, you have a slight echo. I don't know if it's I know you have the phone too. I'm not sure.
Okay, I've been trying to hide my phone. Do I still have a echo?
Oh, that's better. That's better. Yeah.
Okay, I'll sit on it. Lisa Gifford of the Commission on Disability, I thought was on the steering committee. Did that not end up working out, or I couldn't find any mention of the report on that?
Yeah, she stopped coming pretty early on.
Okay, because I know the commission gave some input, but so thanks to those who did that, and thank you, Lisa, for your part-time work there. I just wanted to mention that the way the keys, if you will, to some of the maps that were scanned in the full report, I haven't looked at the storyboard online yet, but the full bike ped plan, you can't read them. So the explanation that goes with your findings, the text is fine, but I just wanted to let you know that since obviously we're a wonderful report, but we're not getting any paper versions. And so even if you do go online to look at them, you're just not able to read the details on that. So that's just two quick things I was going to mention, and I really appreciated the sessions that the town did offer with the consultant, and had a great response to the survey in just a month. I don't know if we could extend the comment period by a week, given that it's less than a month and we are going into holidays. I know you said January 4th, if there's availability to do that. That would be appreciated, but thanks. That's all I have for now.
Great, thank you. Councilor Petrelli or Councilor Palumbo? If not, Councilor Petrelli.
So thank you, Councilor Woodland. The first thing I want to say is what a tremendous amount of work, what really intensive public input we've gotten in this, and what great cooperation between the consultant, the Bicycle and Pedestrian Committee, and the DPW and our design engineer to really come up with something that I think is a very comprehensive, high-level, forward-looking document. As most of you know, I used to be on the Bicycle and Pedestrian committee before I was on the town council, and we were working off of bicycle and pedestrian plans from the 90s that were not quite as comprehensive or in-depth as this. This is sort of on the level of what we've done with, say, the comprehensive plan or some of the other more in-depth studies that we've gotten much better at with our much more professional staff and more staff than we've had in the past. So I do want to, there's a lot of good stuff here. As you all know, the challenge is, as you recall, working through the Mount Auburn street reconstruction. Watertown is a very small, tight, old city, and there's a lot of competing interests. And, we try to, it is, as Councilor Donato pointed out, we can't end up doing everything because there's just too many competing interests. But I do like we place, I think one of the successes we did on the Mount Auburn plan is to really put safety first. And I think that really resonates even with people who don't see themselves as pedestrians or don't ride bikes, that we want to provide a safe environment for everybody who's moving around town. And once we put safety first, all the other pieces in my mind start falling into place. We do, as you know, with the road construction projects, I wish we could do more. I wish we could do, there's a lot to do. We've done a lot of streets, but there's way more streets that need to be done than we've already done now. The hard part is once we get into the implementation phase of this, trying to prioritize what we're going to do first and where we're going to do it. And so kind of get the biggest bang for the buck right up front. So anyway, that's just my initial thoughts. And I see Councilor Palumbo has his hand up, so I'll turn over to him.
Well, thank you. I just wanted to comment quickly and then ask a favor of you all. First off to say, I really enjoyed reading the plan. When I just thought it was so well laid out, and I liked the approach that was taken in terms of, providing the data and then moving from the data to the goals and then from the goals to the action plan. I did see something that constantly referred to, and I thought that was helpful that you put that through there, which was this idea of filling the gaps, that the plan is supposed to try to fill the gaps between what we have right now and what maybe the future would hold. So I just, a number of times throughout the plan that I read was this emphasis on filling the gaps. So I thought that was a nice theme that was throughout it. And then I wonder if you would all, I'm trying to take notes. I'm not going to take a lot of notes on the first half of this presentation. I'm going to just refer people to the storyboard and a few little comments about the storyboard. But it would be helpful if everybody would just put their name in the chat as you at one point throughout the evening. I appreciate that.
Great, thank you. So with that, I'll open it up to members of the public. Again, just use the raise hand function and I'll call on you. And if you have any comments, you can say those, or any questions, our team can answer those as well. Wow, okay, not all at once. Okay, we'll start with Bob Shea.
Geez, everybody else is pretty shy here, so I was going to wait for some others to make comments. But anyway, I'm the president of Watertown for All Ages that has been looking at transportation issues for older residents in Watertown, and became involved with Bike Ped because some work we did surveying older residents. But I want to say at the outset that we've been attending meetings and the sessions putting together this plan, and I've also been very impressed with the work that's been done. I'm also a cyclist, so I appreciate all the work that's been done on the cycling side. However, older residents focus more on getting around on 2 feet because cycling is something they don't do much anymore. And I just wanted to highlight that the pedestrian concerns and issues raised here are really well thought out as well. And we very much support those. And I just wanted to point to the one suggestion in the policy that we get back to addressing the issue of sidewalk snow removal at some point down the road. I'm glad it was included in this, and I trust we'll get back to it at some point. So those are my comments. Thank you for the good work again.
Great, thank you. Next, I saw Jean.
I don't know whether the planners considered this, but one thing that COVID has done is drastically increase the number of pedestrians and cyclists, especially family cyclists. Many more families are out along the river, on other bike paths. You mentioned changing the culture, and it would seem to me that it would be great to figure out some way to build on what appears to be some change in culture that came out of COVID, not have it just disappear as we all go back to our previous lives, but see if we can do things that will keep up the momentum of being outdoors more, moving more, and walking or cycling to either get where we're going or to just have fun or get exercise. I don't know how to do it, but it would be nice to keep it going.
Thank you. Next hand I saw is Jill Allen.
Thank you all. It's really great to see the draft plan, and it's clear that you put a lot of thought into integrating community input as well as data, and that the recommendations that you have will really help make it a better place that's more connected, more vibrant, and really achieves these goals. I wanted to ask if it'd be possible to take a closer look at the Spring Street, Summer Street intersection. When you look at the numbers from MassDOT on ped, bike, as well as vehicle, it's one of the hotspots in town. And it's especially concerning when you look at the volume of traffic coming through that intersection. It's not a very heavily, it's not a ton of traffic, especially compared to, Mount Auburn and some of the other main streets through town, but yet it still has almost as many accidents happening there. It's an important intersection along school walking routes. It's also next to a retirement community, and lighting at night is very poor. And so I think it's an important place to take a closer look at. I think you all would have better recommendations on exactly what's needed there. Thoughts are that, at least a cross traffic does not stop sign would be useful for the Spring Street directions. But I think looking at it more holistically to help to make it safer for pedestrians, for bikes, as well as for vehicles, whether it's a raised intersection, four-way stop, or other opportunities. So appreciate a closer look at that.
Could you repeat the intersection again?
Oh, sure thing. It's the Spring Street, Summer Street intersection. Yeah, I think Watertown police respond to accidents there a lot. And so I think they might be other good folks to check with on root causes.
Great, thank you. I think, Tony, is your hand up again, or is that just?
No, I'm sorry, I didn't take it down. My apologies.
Oh, no worries. I think probably Jean's probably the same thing. Does anyone else have any questions, comments? Cynthia.
I was very impressed by the plan, that the pedestrian aspects of it, of course, particularly interest me, as that is the only way I get around in my daily life in Watertown, to get to a bus stop or run errands in the square, or walk to Russo's, which is about 2 miles from my house, etc. So I'm particularly interested in the recommendations that had to do with safer intersections and safer pedestrian crossings. I happen to be blind as well as being a walker. So those things are very important to me. But I think first and foremost, I want to highlight the issue of snow removal. This issue has been raised in this town for a long time. I've lived here for 40 years and I'm sure it predates me. But the fact that homeowners are not required to clear the snow from the sidewalks in front of their residences is a real problem. I can't tell you how many times I've feel like I've taken my life in my hands. And as more sidewalks have been put in, the streets have gotten narrower. So whereas I used to walk on the street to avoid those sidewalks, that's no longer a safe option. So I just really hope that with all the other great points that the plan raises, I hope this one doesn't get lost somewhere.
Thank you. Councilor Donato.
Thank you, Councilor Woodland. To follow up on Cynthia's comments and then Bob Shea's comments from earlier today, just kind of a procedural question where snow removal would be an ordinance, and I understand the 3 members of Rules and Ordinances. But would that have to be a request for a referral that would come out of this joint committee to Rules and Ordinances to take up a sidewalk shoveling ordinance, or how would that be handled? Would that be part of the report from these 2 committees?
I could take a stab at that. I would imagine that a lot of the recommendations are going to have multiple layers in how we address them. And some might have to be done through ordinances or through a bylaw or through, the capital improvement plan, if they require some sort of money, or if there's an ongoing project happening with part of it right now, or requires some sort of zoning change, or like a state-owned like DCR property, or like half of Main Street in the West End is owned by the state, and that all those things are complicating factors. So I think Vinny might, whatever we choose for a path forward, I think we'll have to have a separate meeting that talks about just those individual paths, how we take them and what they entail. Vinny, do you want to add to that?
Yes, and I think, Kenny, you're right. So this plan, if you think about what we did with the parking plan, or even what we did with the comprehensive plan, or what we did with the economic development plan, they're big plans. They're sort of visionary. There's a lot of, there's dozens of specific recommendations, some big, some small. Most of them, and like all these plans, we adopt it, or we accept the plan in concept, but then each individual thing that needs to be done, whether it's redesigning a road, rebuilding an intersection, or something like that, we will typically have referral to committee to discuss specific projects. You're correct, and as you know, the sidewalk snow shoveling is an ordinance. The administration has authority to change that, and it's strictly a legislative thing. So we can, I envision that would definitely require, in the past, we've studied this, it's always been a joint referral to Public Works and Rules and Ordinances to sort of work through both the technical and legal aspects of that. I imagine that would be, if we were to adopt this plan, that would be something that would come out of it. I'm not sure, like we did with the parking plan, that this joint committees would be making recommendations initially on specific plan recommendations. We can talk about that. I think the first step is that we adopt the plan subject to, like exactly like we did with the parking, subject to the condition that the administration develop implementation plans for specific recommendations by the town council. I think maybe that's the best way to go, because we could be discussing this for months. And I think it is important to adopt the plan and then get into the implementation and dig down into the minutia. Some of them are going to be very complicated. Some of them are going to be easily implemented. And so anyway, that's my thought. I do want to think about, as we get towards the end of this meeting, I see Steve has his hand up.
Yeah.
Could you remind people to mute? I'm getting a lot of feedback.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you're not speaking, if you could just put yourself on mute, because they hear like dogs and stuff in the background and stuff. So one of the things I'm thinking about is, we're continuing to get input from the public. We're going to keep the online survey open, sometime into January. So the idea that, I guess what I'm struggling, and this is maybe just for the committee members, if we were to vote tonight to recommend the full-time council accept the plan and move forward with it, we would be doing that before we get the comments from the public. That doesn't seem like a good strategy to me. So maybe we would need to sort of postpone doing that. But again, maybe maybe Steve could weigh in on this, because I think he can provide some more clarity.
Be great. Steve?
Yeah, I think that's a fair statement, Counselor. What I was going to weigh in on was sort of the implementation piece. And, I think Counselor Picciarelli captured it pretty well, so I won't go over all of it. But basically, this is a policy document, and it gives us as staff, some guidance in terms of developing the policies. But the implementation of that still needs to go through an adoption process with, whatever is appropriate for the particular policy. So, for example, if we recommended some design changes to a particular road, and that road comes before the council for some improvements, then we would look to incorporate the elements that are recommended in the bicycle and pedestrian plan. But, as that design process unfolds, some things might be easier implemented than others. And, it'll go through that iterative process and that approval by the town to make sure that those things can be implemented in an appropriate way. And some may not, it's an iterative process. So I want to mention that. In terms of recommending approval and waiting for public comment, I think that does make sense. I guess what I would suggest is let the staff compile the public documents that come, or public comments that come in by January 11th. At that point, we can assess those and get back to the council on a hopefully scheduling an additional session to move it forward to the full council.
Great. Councilor Feltner?
Thank you.
Thank you.
I hope there's no echo.
It's a little bit.
I just one comment on the findings in the map. I'm going to try hanging up just because my connection seems okay. So that should be much better. I just wanted to speak on behalf general, I guess, of my district, in that I love your different maps, and I was just going to pull up again here on one of them in the plan where you're showing opportunities, basically opportunities for connections. And it's one thing that's not on there is the north-south connection in general from District B in the square to the river. So I know during the comprehensive plan, as well as all the Arsenal Street corridor planning discussions. So I don't know if that was just a general swipe, because of course it would be a long connection going from Oakley Country Club down to the river, but there's not a lot of those either. So just wanted to mention that I'm hoping that it's good to hear that there's not an expectation we're going to vote to adopt the plan per se. without getting public comment and everyone's more time to digest all the good things in this report. And oh, my second question was, I didn't really see mention of traffic commission. And I know that, of course, the police department and fires. I don't know if that's just assumption that they're part of this. You know, I've been promoting public safety focus all along with bike, ped, and including pedestrians in the plan. So it was just a kind of a question that maybe Steve could touch on in seeing, is there any unique role with traffic, other things you might want to mention about that?
Sure. Through you, Mr. Chairman, you know, again, I think the implementation, you know, just as a matter of course, is going to involve DPW, both the police department as well as fire department in appropriate cases, and certainly a traffic commission. You know, anytime we're affecting, you know, numbers of lanes or configurations or you know, loss of parking spaces, traffic control devices, things like that all go to the traffic commission. So there's certainly recommendations in the plan that don't involve any of those things, but a vast majority do, and certainly would involve the traffic commission as well.
Great. I know that we got a little sidetracked on process and implementation, but if there's any members of the public that had any general comments or questions, still feel free to raise your hands for those as well. I do want to appreciate that Steve mentioned there, and something I want to emphasize, that you know, as soon as the plan's adopted, even if it takes us a little while to start moving forward with the implementation of specific items, it's great to have the plan in general there, because as things evolve, you can refer to that plan and make sure it's incorporated as we look at other issues. So really, that's a good way to look at it. Christy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As a member of the consultant team, I want to thank you all for your positive feedback. We always hope that public meetings go well and that there's support for the plan. And there's been so much meaningful input through this process in the way that it was set up, starting with the collaboration between planning and DPW and working through that process, because the two departments in other communities often will not get in the same room with one another. So it's very refreshing that that happened in this plan, and working with the PED bike plan. I do want to reiterate that this plan, as many have said, is a policy document to guide decision making. But because of the level of community input you've received here, I feel like you're in a really good place to take advantage of opportunities that we may not know about yet. So for example, the point that was made about COVID and people walking more and wanting to look for ways for active transportation. When we started this plan a year ago, we had no idea that this is the environment we'd be in, and our last public meeting would be virtual. So there could be funding that becomes available that promotes pedestrian and bicycle activity as a new way to encourage active transportation as people are thinking more about their wellness and how they move around. So to have a plan like this to go into your state legislature and say, these are our priorities, this is what the community said they wanted, it puts you in a far better position than if you didn't have this plan and are trying to make that same case, that the first thing a state elected or federal elected official is going to say is, what does the community think? What are the priorities? What are the goals that this project helps achieve? So this as a policy document is, yes, your work is just beginning on the implementation, but it can be used in a variety of different ways when the community agrees that it's the final plan to use as a tool of implementation. We also separated the recommendations and the action plan to kind of appeal to two different audiences. So the recommendations section, the chapter of the plan, is very detailed. It gives very specific locations and potential mechanisms. And then the action plan has more summary statements, and it's organized by potential time frame, if you could do something in the short term, or the cost. So there's many different ways to kind of slice and dice this depending on the opportunities that present themselves through your community process.
Great, thank you. I guess last call. Any folks in the public, any more questions, comments before we kick things over to our legislative part of the meeting and decide how to move forward? Councilor Feltner?
Yeah, I was going to say that was a really good point at the end. Could you just state that again, Christy, about you felt like there were two ways to talk about taking action or around the recommendations?
Sure. So I have the plan itself is here on my screen. Can you see the cover October 2020? So if you look at the table of contents, it's similar to what we went through of kind of the demographics, what exists today, our engagement process. Then we describe some of the issues and opportunities that came out of this process, what people identified. So some of the maps that somebody mentioned that there may or may not have been something that was included that was capturing the feedback that we had. There's different charts and graphs that demonstrate that to lead into that vision statement and goals. Then the recommendations section has very detailed recommendations by the policy and infrastructure. The action plan, so this is the map I know that was referred to before. I agree with you. It is challenging to read on a small scale. It's designed to be printed as an 11/17 in a hard copy report. And that's why we went with the story map concept of putting it into a map format that you could read more easily online. Then the action plan section of the plan has, so we have these detailed recommendations. The numbers correspond to numbers on the map. They're not necessarily prioritized. It was just the order that they kind of were developed. Then the action plan section has more of a condensed version of those recommendations with a time frame for implementation, something that could be done relatively quickly or is already in progress. And then the dollar symbols of 1 to 3, representing the lowest cost to the highest cost, sort of order of magnitude.
Sorry, Lisa, do you have a follow-up?
Yeah, no, I was just thanks a lot. I just thought that was good to hear and have you flesh it out a little more for everybody. I should have been more specific. The part that I wasn't able to read online was more the appendices where you had some really good, again, detailed background work, but had some charts, but then the keys to those charts that fleshed out the details. So I don't know if that can, maybe that's the only place where even if you enlarge it, it's blurry. So I just wanted to let people know that. Thanks.
I see Maria has her hand up.
I think, am I unmuted now?
Yes.
Can you hear me? Thank you. I wanted to say that I really appreciate it, and I think Laura needs to take a real bow in the work that she did for this plan. And I wanted to thank her personally because she worked really hard with the committee to reflect our comments, to reflect our feedback, and take that and make the plan better. So thank you, Laura, for the hard work you've done on this. It really shows in the results that we're seeing now. And I also wanted to thank our consultants because they also got a lot of feedback from the committee. We kept going back to them with things that we thought could be improved, could be strengthened, needed changing. And they've done a really good job in making that happen. I think the end result has been a much better, stronger plan, easier to read, and recommendations that make a lot of sense. I'm really pleased with the way this has come out. I also wanted to note that one of our goals in this process was to expand beyond the traditional areas that the committee has always focused on, because we started out as a bicycle committee, not necessarily as a bicycle and pedestrian committee. But we wanted to make sure in this plan that the needs of pedestrians, because at the end of the day, we are all pedestrians, that were really reflected. The town is small, as Vinny said, We're only 4x4. There's no reason why people can't walk throughout the town. That the needs of walkers can't be really strongly reflected. And I think the plan does that. We're always looking for better ways to do that and things that would make it even better and stronger and safer for our pedestrians, especially now that a lot of us are walking more and we want to keep it that way. So again, I wanted to thank Laura and the consultants and the rest of the bike ped committee, because we worked really, really hard on this. And the results are really showing. So thank you very much.
So I don't see any other hands up at this moment. If there's no one else, no other comments, I think there would seem to be a suggestion that what we do is we convene again after January 11th. That way all the public comments can come in. The community development and planning has a chance to put those all together and present them to us at that meeting in the middle of January. So for the joint committees, does that sound like a plan to move forward? We can adjourn here and then we'll wait till January to take the next action after we've had a chance to look at those.
Sounds good. I
Councilor
make
Fitzgerald.
a motion to continue.
May I just,
Yeah.
Just was wondering what the deadline again is for comments. Was it January 4th? Is that right?
We just extended that for a week to January 11th.
Thank you.
Councilor Picciarelli, did you have something there as well?
Well, no, if Councilor Felder made that motion to continue the meeting, I will second that. I just want to, if I could just add two brief comments before we vote on that and then adjourn. Going through this, and I went back and I was rereading the comprehensive plan to see how this fit in there. So two things really struck me. Number one is, well, first, this is a joint meeting with Public Works and Economic Development. And the reason we did that is because getting people out of their cars and walking around town really ties right into our economic development plan of mixed use and activating the street fronts to actually getting the additional liquor licenses, is that we are really, from an economic development standpoint, want to make Watertown more of a vibrant cityscape where people can walk from their house to a restaurant, to a store, and people feeling comfortable to walk or ride their bike to these things is sort of a missing element. We've had a lot of development in Watertown, as everyone knows, but we have not really even used all the new liquor licenses that we have because we are still struggling to put the retail businesses in these new spaces. So I view this plan is a way to do that. We're going to have at Arsenal Yards, we're going to have a new supermarket there. You think about how many people like from Lisa's neighborhood in District B, can you ride your bike from, Andy, where you live up there in District B, can you ride your bike down to Arsenal Yards and go to the new Roach Brothers store, do shopping and ride home? That's what people want to do. That's what my wife wants to do. She's looking forward to riding her bike to Arsenal Yards to go shopping instead of taking the car to the supermarket. And I think, in my mind, the excitement that this can generate in town for people to do more things in town is huge. The second piece is, it's going back through the history thing. 100 years ago, people didn't have cars. Everybody walked to work. The two biggest employers were the Arsenal and the rubber factory. Nobody drove to work. Everybody either rode their bike or walked or took a trolley. So to a certain extent, we're going back to, the future, and we're trying to sort of recreate that sense of community that really existed, 100 years ago. And I think, again, making it more enjoyable for people to walk places or ride their bike, or safer to ride the bike places, is going to sort of help rebuild that sense of community that, many people, if you go to any planning board meeting, people will lament the fact that the old, the old neighborhoods of Watertown, are gone. Everything has been ruined. Well, part of what I see this plan in conjunction with what we've done with our zoning and other things we've done from the comprehensive plan is actually to sort of recreate the small town feel for people's, youths or memories, nostalgia of the past. So anyway, those two things really sort of struck me. This is not just a public works project. This is actually an economic development project. And that's really what I think is important. I hope the members of the public who participated, saw that or see that and would support it that way.
So we do have a motion to continue, and Councilor Petrelli seconded that motion. Any discussion on the motion before we vote? Seeing none, I'll do a roll call, I think. Councilor Petrelli.
Yes.
Councilor Palumba.
Yes.
Councilor Feltner.
Yes.
And Councilor Donato.
Yes.
Oh, and myself, yes. Okay, could I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Great, and roll call, Councilor Petrelli,
Yes.
Councilor Palumba,
Yes.
Councilor Feltner,
Yes.
Councilor Donato,
Yes.
and myself, yes. Great,
Thank you
thank
all.
you, thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.